So in this video, we're going to take a closer look at surface modifications. Basically, anything we want to add to this surface here that we've designed, whether it's EVA or a shell, can be found here. It might be a pad, it might be relief to offload, or it might be simply a cutout to change the shape of a device or to cut a feature out of the insole. So in this folder here, there are a number of standard types of pad or relief or cutout. So looking at them separately, a definition of a pad is something that is a positive shape on top of the surface, like this. The definition of relief is something that does exactly the opposite. It makes a hole, or it's rather a recess, so it's offloading. And the definition of a cutout is, as it says, really, it's just a big cut all the way through. So that will take the hole all the way through the device. Okay. Now I'm going to do this video using an EVA, a full-length EVA, because it allows me to show the full spectrum. But whatever I show you is applicable to a 3/4 length shell, a full foot shell, or any other device that you're designing. Okay, so in no particular order here, I'm going to start with the pads and then go on to relief and then cutouts after. So met pads, really, it's exactly what you'd expect it to do. Is it applies a standard shape to the surface, and it has the effect as if it was glued on to the surface. So if I go extreme here, it's like gluing a pad onto the surface. And if I move that pad up the, in this case here, up the medial edge, and I can have it as big as I want, it will mold into the surface. It will have the effect of being like stuck down over the 3D surface. Okay, while I'm here, I can move in any direction. I can rotate using the yellow. And as I've already shown, you can size it to whatever size you want. Now be careful here. The bigger you make it, the more you're stretching the triangles that are underneath, and the more faceted it becomes. So if you really do need very large pads, it's better to ask us to add them for you rather than stretch the limits of the ones you have. Okay, so that's a pad. Let's take a quick look at another type of positive shape, which is a bar. Here we can add the shape again, move it, position it, size it, and prescribe it. So you can see what it's doing there. It's adding that to the surface. At this stage, I'm going to show you what it looks like if you want to use multiple pads. So if I went back to here and put on a simple met dome, I've now got two pads. Now the first thing that is worth noting is that when you're working with one pad over another, if you click in the same place twice, it switches between the two. So if you want to stay focused on one pad, then you want to lock active. This is very useful. That means that it's locked to the actively selected pad and won't select anything else at all. Okay. Right. The other thing that's worth noting in here is by default, these pads will melt together. So if I make this one really high, like 5, it will actually blend through the one underneath. And you can see actually quite clearly there where it's bleeding through as these two pads merge in and out of each other. But if I wanted to add them together to put the second pad, this teardrop, on top of the first pad, I can select here pad on pad and prescribe. That's completely different now. Instead of that pad going through its neighbor, it sits on top of it. And this also is true of relief. We can now add relief to that and cut that out of the combined shape. Okay, so that's pads, and we have a whole variety of them, standard shapes. Most importantly here, that you're not constrained to one. So if I wanted to make this shape whatever I want, I don't have to do that every time. I can start to build my own library up of shapes and sizes and positions. So here I'm going to always have this as a ridiculously high 8mm pad, and I'm now going to save it. And it's going to allow me, I'll use my name, to build my own shapes up, my dancer. And it's going to, it creates the image from the pad, and then we simply create it. Now, what's happened here is it's added a new library, and this is my library. So if we look at exactly where that is there and I remove it and I click this one and add it, it goes back exactly where it was before. It's still flexible, but it removes the need for me to have to start from scratch each time. Okay, so that's pads. Let's take a look now at relief. So the standard relief we offer is kind of trying to suggest where the feature might be useful. Now be careful here, look, you need to set the height as you want it. If I'd have left it at 8, that would have been a bit too thick, too deep rather. And that's now put that relief in the heel. I can remove that by clicking minus and select something else. A common one perhaps is the plantar fascia groove. We try and place it somewhere logical, but you say, well, actually, no, my grooves are always like this. They're always like this, so that's fine. Save it. So now I'm going to put in my folder called Chris, my plantar fascia groove, create. And now we have 2 items underneath. And once again, my relief is designed as I want it. Okay, so going back into the relief area, we have all sorts of different shapes and none of them are fixed. You can stretch and move them as you wish. Now, if you want to be have a little bit more control over your relief, we actually have adjustable relief up here. So in this case, I can bring a shape in like this. Looks like a normal relief, but it has a new feature down here, edit points. So I can now start to tweak and modify that shape as I wish, dramatically or just tweaking it around ulceration or some kind of pressure area that you want to offload. Change the height and prescribe. And what that's doing now is it's applying that custom shape to the area that I want to offload. Okay, so let's have a look at that again. So in adjustable relief, it tries once again to assume where you might want to use this, but you are not constrained in any way whatsoever. If you want to make your own very special shape here, you can. Okay, and you say, all right, well, I'm going to save that. Once again, in here, call that Chris, and it's going to save that in the same library again. And every time I use it, it comes in as my unique shape. I can still edit it, I can still size it, manipulate it, but it's just closer to what I want each time. Okay, so that's relief. What about cutouts? Standard cutouts we have around 3/4 length shells allows you to shape some of the features. Also we have in cutouts for a full foot device a Morton's. So in this situation here we can do edit points and it will show you what it's going to cut out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch that over to the other side and move that over here like so, and this will become clear in a minute what I'm trying to do. Edit points, that's going to tell me what it's going to cut away, and as you can see here it's going to cut this away. I don't want that, so I'm going to flip it using this, and that enables me to get a good view now of what's going to disappear. So I can start playing and get that a little closer to where I want it to, and say, you know what, I want to smooth that edge off over there, I want the transition to be better. You can move these points around, and once again, don't forget we can save this as our own definition of the Morton's extension. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to save it, and this will be called Chris again, and this is my definition of what I want. And here we go, our library is growing fast. If I just do edit points again, it'll show you what's going to be removed and prescribe, and that now cuts away, leaving me with my support for my first ray. Okay, if I take that out, so that's standard cutouts. What about more advanced stuff? So for example, toe boxes. We offer a number of toe box options. One is this one here, where you just simply size and shape that to fit. And look, I'm making this deliberately oversized, but the software will trim it back. Okay, so what we have here now for an amputation is a toe box. Okay, going back into toe boxes, it may be that I have my first, but I've lost other toes, and make that a little bit more distal. And you can see we can have these shapes that we can add in. for toe boxes. Other features that are advanced, one of them is the flip-flop. With flip-flop design, this is the wrong shape profile, but we can actually add and size and position a groove that will go around the outside. Now, it won't work very well here, but this is just to stop the feet from sliding forwards. It's kind of support for the feet that we can add as a feature. Let's also take a look at the adjustable met bar. Here we have the ability to position this bar where we want and edit the points to shape that distal edge of the pad. So in this case here, we're just shaping it as I wish. You could have an image here that would help you to position to offload for the ulceration. Let's say there is some ulceration here. And if we turn that off and position that down here, maybe there's some ulceration on the first met head. And if I go to edit points, I can change that. What I can also do here is change how far it protrudes. So here I can change that to 9, it's higher. I can change the leading angle, which is this angle at the front, and the trailing angle to adjust how sharp that gradient is. And you'll see now when I prescribe it what that looks like. So here I've added this shape that loads the foot behind the met heads, obviously, so I can offload an area, in this case the first met. This could be used in combination with something else, so perhaps we could have an adjustable relief. Bring that back in here, let's take a small one and position that up here, stretch it a little bit more globally, but then I can come in and edit those points again and tweak it, decide how much I want to offload by and prescribe. And what that's going to do now is it's going to add both together. So now I've got a combination of loading and offloading on my insole. Okay, we can go on. Really, the key here is that the sky's the limit. You can take any shape, adapt it, any relief, any pad, any cutout, and modify it to your own needs and save it. Heel cushions used where you want to add a support in the rear foot. Okay. What else have we got? This one is for loading behind the arch. I give that a height of say 5. You can see how we are loading the foot differently here. And the crazy thing about this is that you're not limited. You know, you're just because you know a device has to be used in a certain way does not limit you to use it in that way. There is nothing to stop us from pushing this and using this as part of the forefoot offloading. Okay. So the goal really here is just to understand the basics and then go in and play and push and pull. Well, there's one here that I haven't mentioned so far was the forefoot correction. So cluffy wedge. So being able to have a tapered loading. In this case, a loading on the first. Or something like this met fis here where I can position that where I want it to be over the foot. To load everything but the first. But you get the idea. The flexibility is there. So finally, there are other things you can do in here that I haven't shown yet that I'm going to put into an advanced video. So just get started by using all the different tools in here. Get to know them, because as you design, you'll start to think, hang on, if I use a combination of this and this, or if I adapt this and save it in my own library, this will be useful later. So that's the whole idea here, is that you're not constrained by what you see. Now, if you can't achieve anything by what's in here at the moment, then you can come and talk to us and we can add that for you as a service. Okay, thank you very much.